So Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, and I got some work done today. With Amazon bringing all their packages through USPS, the Postal Service, they're delivering packages on Saturday. Of course, you get them later than usual. You know, usually I get my packages around 9:30, but on the weekends I get them around 10:30, I guess. So I got two things running. I'm gonna check this chainsaw again just to make sure it's still running. I guess I should put it on the ground and do it properly so I don't hurt myself. That's a fine running machine now. And then I had to put a cable on this machine. New brake cable. So that's working. I also got the carburetor for the riding mower, but I decided to go ahead and stop for the day. Obviously I got a late start because the parts came in at 10, and I can do this Monday. I try really hard to take Sunday off because Carolyn likes to go shopping on Sunday, not every Sunday, but when she wants to go shopping, she likes to go on Sunday. So I always try to leave Sunday free, so I won't do anything tomorrow on this. But Monday I'll put the carburetor back on. So, as you know, I've been working on my truck a lot because it's got a code, and as I have said multiple times, it's indicating there is an oil pressure problem. That doesn't mean that the oil pressure is bad or too high. There's just a problem somewhere with the oil pressure. So the code is low oil pressure. There's two types of codes. You can get the low oil pressure code or the high oil pressure code. Either way, it usually has something to do with the computer components. So my code, there's a switch. I have a two-stage oil pump, a high-low. Most oil pumps are just one oil pump. But the high oil pump engages when you need more power so it can adjust the variable valve timing. The computer is sensing something is wrong with the high stage. So it's shutting off the switch. There's a switch, and I know exactly where it's at. It's a little hard to get to. And if I have to change it, I'm going to, but I'll get to that in a minute, I think, as long as I don't forget. So the computer is shutting that switch off and ignoring the second stage of the oil pump. I feel like I've said this many times. So one of the things that could be triggering this switch is the variable valve timing solenoids may not be engaging. They may be stuck or dirty. And the first set I pulled off had a big hunk of dirt on it, as a matter of fact. So I changed them, and a few weeks later it coded again. So that could indicate maybe that the oil pressure sensor, the thing that tells the computer and me, because it's the same sensor, what the oil pressure is. So I changed that. Still didn't work. Now I changed the oil because if the oil is too thin, that may reduce the oil pressure. I changed the filter, which I didn't think would have any effect because, well, I guess it could if the oil filter was clogged. But anyway, there's this switch in there also. Now I haven't changed that. I just learned about that yesterday. I thought this switch they were talking about was in the computer and shut off that second pump. That's what I thought it was. I thought the pump was electric, but it's not. It's mechanical. It's driven by hydraulics, oil pressure. So once I learned, oh, the computer goes to a switch, it actually looks very similar to the variable valve control solenoid. It looks almost identical. It's a little shorter, and it's harder to get to. Oh my goodness. I'll take the tire off and the shroud and all that again, but I just had to have patience to do it. So the thing I feel I should say is I have researched myself almost into insanity. Carolyn has researched, and I mean, every time I have a thought, I Google. Every time I have a possibility, I Google. And then I read and read and read and read. Of course, the AI makes things a lot easier now, Google AI, but it's not always accurate. So you go down and you read some more, and then you get into the forums and you listen to those guys and what they've experienced and what they did. And that's how I actually found the switch was independent, was in one of the forums. I read so much that I finally got down there and it said, you may want to check the switch. And I thought, well, how do you check the switch? It's in your computer. So he posted a picture of the switch and where it was located. And I knew exactly where it was located because there's the oil filter, and right above it was this switch. So I got underneath the truck and I looked, and there sure it was. There's the switch. I can reach it. I can touch it. That's about it. I'll have to take the tire off and all that. And then there's a wire attached to it that I got to get disconnected up here, and I can't see that. So that has me a little bit concerned. So I'm going to check into that first before I take that out. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't got into the forums. And I forget what question I had in my head that I decided to just jump up immediately. And so I asked Carolyn, and I said, between the two of us, how many hours do you think we've put into researching this? And she said, oh, probably 80 or 100 hours. I mean, we have spent an enormous amount of time. And the thing is, it's been a huge learning curve. I know so much about oil now. I mean, there's this channel, Oil Geek or something. And he's got like a master's degree in oil viscosity. And I guess he builds race car engines and stuff. So anyway, I mean, and I have learned so much from him, and what the 5W20, what that means, that the 5 is when the oil is cold and the 20 is the viscosity when it's hot. So that's why you have two numbers. And so I don't have a problem when the oil is cold, so the 5 is fine. I have a problem when the oil is hot, so the 20 to me is wrong. There's something wrong with it. And I've learned that, well, just recently, Chevy just did a recall on one of their 8-cylinders. I think it's a 6.2 liter. They just did a recall. They've had engines failing. So what they're doing is they're bringing all these engines in, and if the engine is destroyed, they replace the engine. If they do this inspection, and they do it with the computer, they can plug it in and they can see that the camshaft and the crankshaft have a slight misalignment through the computer. They can see that. So what they're saying is they want you to change the oil immediately, and the oil cap from 0W20 to 0W40. So it's a huge, I think it was 20. Anyway, so it's a huge jump that they're doing here. And what that is doing is it's going to put more pressure on the cam and crank to keep them in line so they don't start to wear. So what we learned here is that some engine oil, and I'm not going to tell you to change your engine oil, that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, if you have some sort of warranty on your engine, you're going to want to do what they tell you. So what I'm learning is the lower viscosity oils may not be too good for them. So I'm not worried about the 5 or the 10, you know, at the front, the 5W, the 10W, I'm not worried about that. It's cold. Your oil is cold. So the way I look at it is you're actually going to want thinner oil when it's cold outside. So the viscosity isn't so thick that it takes a long time for it to warm up. So I'm fine with the 5. It's the 20 5W20, that's what I'm worried about. I don't think it's thick enough. So I have called the mechanic. I haven't changed the oil yet. It's still got 5W20. I called the mechanic. We're going to put it on the computer, see if we can figure out what it is. And if we can't figure out what it is, or we can't fix it, then I'm going to put the 5W30 oil in it, and I may even go to 5W40. Now that I know it's not going to blow up my engine. After all this research, this is what I learned. But what I find so interesting is, as many times as I've said what's wrong with my truck, what I've done, that people still insist that I'm not on the right course of action. And they're literally going to my new channel. I don't know why they're going to my new channel, unless YouTube blocked them. I mean, that's a non-stop thing. If YouTube blocked you, then... So he goes over to my other channel, and he tells me, even though I said it wasn't the transmission, of course it's the transmission. If you're getting a code for variable valve timing, it's quite possible, and he explains that if the transmission is slipping, the computer recognizes the variable valve timing and the camshaft and the transmission are not aligned, and it's going to code. Okay, but I'm not getting a code for variable valve timing. And I said it in the video where I told him the first time, I think this was yesterday or day before yesterday, that that's not the issue. The transmission is not the issue. It's oil pressure. And so you decided to tell me, even though you have no idea obviously what is wrong with my truck, even though I've said it many times because you're not listening, that you're right, I'm wrong. Even though I've spent 100 hours researching this. 100 hours. I've talked to mechanics multiple times. It's not the transmission. You can type all you want thinking you understand, but you don't understand. It's obvious you don't understand because you're telling me something else coded, even though I told you, no, that's not what the code is. And then I got this other guy who insists, he just insists that I just need to stop doing what I'm doing and just let the thing run poorly. You're going to listen to me eventually. You're going to spend all this money into this truck and it's just going to, you're never going to figure it out. Well, I'd rather spend a bunch of money on the truck than not have a truck, which is what your plan is. Your plan is to just give up on the truck. Remember, this is an oil pressure problem. So it's not like it's not serious. If the oil pump is bad, if it's bad, and it continues to go bad, then my engine is going to lock up, and instead of having a $2,000 oil pump problem, I'm going to have I think the engine was $4,500. I'm going to have a $4,500 problem. Maybe it wasn't that high. Oh, it was with labor. I had to consider labor, taking. So, no, this isn't, just let it go, let it go. Let your engine blow up, and then you won't have anything to drive, and then you're going to listen to me, obviously. That is just such a moronic thing to say. I don't even understand it. Now, I understand that there are people who drive around with the check engine light because they can't afford to get it fixed. I understand that. But I can't afford to get it fixed, and I intend to get it fixed because I feel like this truck's got a lot of life in it. And it's got a problem, somewhat of a serious problem maybe, but regardless, it's got a problem. It's been a good truck. So, no, I'm not just going to ignore it and eventually come around to your way of thinking. Actually, I will never come to your way of thinking. I will take it to the mechanic, let them tear it completely apart and put it completely back together before I come around to your way of thinking. That makes no sense to me. Just let it junk up. I don't get it. So, I don't understand why people who watch a 15-minute video all of a sudden become an expert on whatever subject it is, telling everybody how, you got to follow my advice. That's just the way it is. Instead of listening to the video. They don't listen. Obviously, the guy who thinks he knows everything about transmissions didn't listen to the oil pressure because when he went off on his rant about variable valve timing codes, he wasn't even addressing what I was talking about. And then I had another guy tell me, Carolyn's right. I only run 10W30. I don't run 5W20. I don't run it 10W30 or 10W40. No, I don't want to run a 10. I don't, and I said this in the video. There is no way I'm going to run a 10 because I'm running too much pressure when the engine is cold already with a 5. If I go to 10, that means it's going to be even worse. And then when in the wintertime, it's even going to be worse. So instead of an 80 psi oil pressure when I start up, in the wintertime with a 10, let's say it goes to 90 or 100 psi, and I start blowing out seals and gaskets. Oh no, I'm done. And the thing is they always give their qualifier, always. And it didn't even make sense. I'm 68 years old and I use 10W30. What does 68 years old have to do with 10W30? Nothing. Nothing. So, you know, I have researched this, and I understand why my oil pressure is so high when my engine is cold. I understand it. So just, you know, throwing out, I'm 68 years old, so that means I'm right. I'm 53. You know, maybe I got some information also. You know, just because you're, what, 15 years older doesn't make you right. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video on my other channel. Appreciate it if you go check it out. So if I can inspire you to research so you actually know how to live your dreams. Thanks for watching.